Welcome back to Number One Reality Junkie, where I take my reality TV junk and I just dump it right on you. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to this channel. Now, we are here today to recap the Real Housewives of Orange County episode titled The Elephant in the Room. I believe this is season 18, so wow, 18 seasons for RHOC. Kudos to them. And this episode did not disappoint, even though some of their episodes honestly have been a bit disappointing. But this one here, it's finally revving up the second half of this season 18, and this is episode 12, and we are getting some juice. We are getting to the nitty gritty of things, so let's just jump right into it. And one thing I'm gonna say, speaking of jumping right into it again, as I mentioned with the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City recap, they just kind of jump into the scene. So they're jumping into the scene as Emily, Tamra, and Gina, and they're discussing the situation between Emily and Heather, the blow up at the fashion show, about the clothing and about, just Heather or Emily wanting Heather to hear her and hear her frustrations and just understand her. And then, of course, Alexis Bellino jumping in because the discussion was that that Heather had two of the same dresses, one for Emily and one for Alexis Bellino, who is clearly a small, a smaller size. I believe she said a size 2. And how that made Emily feel to know that, you have her wearing a dress as well as someone wearing a size 2, and the clear differences in that. And, as we know, Emily's been on this weight loss journey. She's proud of her body, but, sometimes her insecurities do get the best of her. And I think that's relatable for all of us. We could be, at our worst, and then we get better and we're feeling good about ourselves. But then one situation that really has nothing to do with anything just takes us back and backtracks us. I think this would happen with Emily. So, but anyway, they're talking about that. And then they're also discussing how Alexis butted in, and Tamra apologizes to Emily. And I thought that was nice. I think that in situations where it's someone who is clearly shown that they can do it and working on themselves, and trying to do better. And if it's a misunderstanding, just clear it up. Just clear it up. You'll get so much further that way. So Tamra immediately clears it up. And that is not like Tamra to apologize. It takes a lot for Tamra to apologize. And normally the apology comes after a blow up or whatever the case is. So anyway, kudos to Tamra for that. We cut to Terry and Heather. Maybe that's their name, Harry. Heather and Terry Dubrow, aka Harry Dubrow. He's getting a surgical procedure done to have his nose rectified because he snores and is driving Heather nuts. And she talks about that, and then she touches on the relationship and the back and forth relationship between Emily and Gina as far as she is concerned. And she feels like she gets forward and moves on from them, but then something happens and they end up backtracking. The same thing with a lot of these shows, and the same thing with a lot of the other housewives. You move 2 steps or 10 steps forward, and then you're like 12 steps back. And so she just feels like, man, I thought I was finally to a point where I was good with Emily, that I'm good with Gina, to where this wouldn't even come up, because I don't think Heather was being intentional about putting, Emily in another size, and someone else is wearing the same dress who's smaller. I don't think she was being intentional about her bringing her own jeans. Like, I just think, again, it's just Emily's insecurities getting the best of her, and maybe she's frustrated about something or whatever the case is, and just kind of projecting it a little bit on Heather. In this case, I do feel like Heather can be quite pretentious. She can be, a bit annoying, but I feel like in this case, there was nothing that she was trying to do that was nefarious. So, nonetheless, Terry, or aka Terry and Heather, aka Heather and Terry, aka Harry, they have like a little lover spat. And I wanted to highlight this because, this is typical of couples. And I like this moment from them because the show does show them as like this couple, this perfect couple with no issues, no problems, all of that. And when I don't think that's the case, because that's not the case with anyone. There's no such thing as a perfect couple. And so this quick little spat comes from because Heather is feeling frustrated about, Terry's take on her talking to Gina and Emily, and Terry's like, you're going to talk to them again and again and again. And Heather's just like, you know what? I'm good. And then Terry gets frustrated, and then he feels that Heather is talking over her. And let me tell you, this reminds me of my fiance and I. He does not play games. Like, he does not like to be talked over, and neither do I, but I'm very opinionated, and I think Heather is very opinionated. And so sometimes we just feel like we have to get our opinions out. And so, she specifically told him that I don't want to be admonished on TV. And I get that. It's like it happens behind closed doors is one thing, but when it's on television, it's there forever. And so I think this is a relatable moment for them, and something that a lot of couples also go through. Do y'all do this with y'all mans? Let me know in the comment section below, or even with your wives. Like, do you have these little spats? And it all works out. It's fine. It's at the end of the world. But I think sometimes that is a tug of war when you have a strong woman, aka a Heather Dubrow, aka me, and a very strong man, aka Terry Dubrow, aka my fiance. Okay. All right. So anyway, we go to Jen and Ryan. They're going shopping, and and Jen is talking about how Ryan gets literally everything tailored, down to his t-shirts, his jeans, his board shorts for when he goes surfing, and then his underwear. I have never heard of someone getting their underwear tailored. I guess there's not a perfect size for him to grab. But hey, I get it. You got to get them tailored. Then just go ahead and get your underwear tailored. Anyway, we cut to Tamara and Eddie, and Tamara's complaining that Eddie doesn't clean up after himself, and she's just like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. But he keeps his truck super clean, and they cut to this like romantic, scene with him washing the truck and like getting water on the truck. And I think that's like a typical man. A man is going to take care of his babies, his toys, but when it comes to little things around the house, they're not checking for it. So anyway, we have Tamara and Eddie, Jen and Ryan, and their scenes are intertwined. They're going back and forth. And so Eddie loves Jen. Okay, so we get that. And then we also see that Jen loves Eddie. So they have a mutual respect for one another. However, it's, Eddie does not like Ryan, and, neither does Tamara, of course. And that in the past, Tamara and Jen have had their situations. So the dichotomy between the four of them, two couples with situations and past situations, it's going to, of course, come ahead at the end. But I just thought that was the dynamic of the four of them, and just how much it came up multiple times, how much Jen respects Eddie, how much Eddie loves Jen, and so I wish they could get it together, just for the sake of that. But, when you have, number one, a messy wife, Eddie, and number two, a fiance who, is a little suspect, Jen, this is kind of what happens. This is definitely, what happens. And this podcast situation comes up. It's all about the Real Housewives podcast. And I said I'm going to go listen to it because I want to hear these things for myself, because the clips that they were showing doesn't seem to match up to what Tamara's saying. She's saying that he said all the stuff about her as a mom and all of these things, and you hear the host going in on Tamara, but you don't hear Ryan go in with her and, and all of that. So I think I'm going to find the podcast, listen to it for myself so I can really hear what was said, just to see what makes sense and what he really said, and then what Tamara's just making up in her own mind. Let's see here. And so now we cut to Shannon, and she's talking to her daughter who's in New York in college, and she's, of course, by herself, her daughter, Adeline, to be specific. And she's asking Adeline about the men in New York, and she's like, the men are disgusting. And the disgusting word is used so much in this particular franchise and this particular, these last few episodes. It's like, it's disgusting, the way that everyone says it. I just think it's funny. So she says that they're disgusting. And like I said, disgusting is the word of this particular season, disgusting. Anyway, Shannon tells her daughter the update on the John Jansen fiasco, and she's, already down, and she just feels like he's trying to kick her down even further. And she's like, it doesn't get any worse than this. And then boom, we cut to it getting worse because John Jansen has now filed a lawsuit against Shannon, and Tamara tries to call her, and I guess because she tried to call her, Shannon accidentally butt dials her. And I'm going to read verbatim what the cell on the screen because, Tamara kind of summarized to the girls what was said. But I want to say verbatim what she said because I went through and jotted down the screenshots. And she uses a few expletives. I'm not going to say them, of course, but I'm just going to say bleeping. Okay, here it is. End quote. I need us to talk and strategize this and figure it out. Alexis is paying for the pub for her publicist, for sure. I'm sure. My emotion level right now is bleeping, panicking. I'm so overwhelmed and I'm so bleeping tired, end quote. So this is, of course, Shannon on the phone with someone, I don't know. Actually, she's in person because you hear the dialogue back and forth. So she's got to be in person. Maybe she's on Zoom or something like that. But she's communicating with someone else because you hear them also in the background. And so when John Jansen filed the lawsuit, then it went to People Magazine and it was released through People Magazine. So they're, of course, reputable, as Tamara mentions. And now it all makes sense as to why Alexis Bellino was acting so weird the night before, because she knew this was going to be dropping the next day. And it was just a lot on her mind. So we'll put a pause on that. We get back to Katie. Katie and her husband are planning the dinner party. It's going to be Emily, Tamara, and Jen plus their significant others. And then Terry is out of surgery with his new nose. Okay, then we go to Gina, and Gina's making sauce and meatballs for her ex-husband, Matt, and then his fiance. He proposed to his girlfriend, now fiance, and they'll be getting married soon. So they're having a commitment ceremony, and Gina feels that this is good for the kids. Gina talks about the dynamic between Gina and Matt, Matt's fiance, versus the dynamic between Gina and Travis's ex, who's making it impossible to co-parent. And it really sucks because it's totally out of her control. And I do feel bad for Gina because I see what she's trying to do. At first, it just seemed like, okay, what are you doing? You're kind of reaching, but I get it. It's like you can't live with someone. Or you can, but it's difficult and it causes issues in your relationship when you're living with someone who has an ex, and they're trying to make a co-parenting situation possible, but is doing everything in their power to make it difficult. It's just hard. And so for Gina, it's just too much for her. And which is why she had him move out of the casita and, get his own place until they're able to figure something out, because it's too much. And I think really seeing the dynamic between Matt and his fiance and how things are really flourishing, it makes her recognize how things are just feels like they're backtracking with Travis. And it's not Travis's fault. It's really it is in a sense because he needs to, figure out the situation between him and his ex, but it's not because it's not anything that he's doing or he has done that has caused this. Anyway. Okay, so back to the dinner party. Emily arrives first with Shane, then Tamara and Eddie, then Jen and Ryan, and everyone is there, and they notice how awkward and weird the interaction is between Ryan and Eddie. And Ryan did ask him for a hug, asked Eddie for a hug. He gave him a handshake. He did say hi. They greeted. He asked for a hug, and of course, based off of the situation that is going on with the two of them, Eddie said declines. And he's like, why would I want to hug you? And kind of walks off. And so, I think, Ryan is a bit dramatic, and, how he recounts something isn't actually how it happened, because he said that Eddie didn't greet him. He didn't say hi, which is not true. He did greet him. He did shake his hand. He did say, give some sort of greeting. But he just opted out of the hug, and that makes a difference. And what I don't like is that, Ryan goes to the B word. He, calls him an expletive. And I'm just like, I mean, why? Why does it have to go to that? But anyway, so moving forward, Now we have Ryan and Katie's husband. So I like Katie's husband. He's quiet. He's very chill. They're a very cute couple. And Ryan is Katie's husband wants to get to know some of the people, some of the guys. Pulls Ryan. They go out there and talk, and he asks Ryan a loaded question, and the question was, what do you do? Now, for someone who is a freelancer like myself, I have two businesses, and I freelance on the side, and then I work with my fiance. I'm also a performing artist, so I do multiple things. When people ask me, what do you do? It's a loaded question. So it's kind of like, this, that. And depending on what environment I'm in, I probably won't even talk about the other things. I'll just talk about one thing specifically and then just keep it moving. But I also just saw the stress and the struggle in Ryan trying to communicate and just say all the stuff that he's doing, that he's a part of, whether he is or not. It made some people feel like it gave validity to what Tamara was saying about him. But, for me, as someone who also struggles with communicating verbatim what I do for a living and how I earn my income, it can be a lot. But nonetheless, they have this discussion, and you can tell that Katie's husband is just like exhausted of the answer. He's just like, okay. All right, so now clearly Tamara is drunk, and it's really starting to show. We see where she goes and asks Katie's husband for another drink. Emily is like, can you grab me a drink too? And while she's holding her drink, which is like a dirty martini, and Katie's husband is pouring Emily's drink, she's spilling her drink in the martini glass, and it's like spilling all over their floor. And so you can see in Eddie's face that he's just like annoyed, and he's drinking sparkling water. And Shane does ask, hey, you don't drink? He's like, only if I really need to, or based off the situation, the scenario. So I'm actually glad that Eddie isn't drinking, but I think he also recognizes that he knows his wife is a drinker. And to the point where, number one, Eddie looks kind of just like embarrassed. And then number two, he goes and tells Katie's husband, cut her off. Don't serve her nothing else. And it's just like, ugh. Anyway, with this part that I felt was funny and true and accurate, what came from Jen, because she said the last time she saw Tamara drunk, she got a napkin thrown in her face, and they cut back to the scene last year where Tamara threw the napkin in her face. Now, honestly, I'm gonna keep it 100% real, y'all. If somebody threw a napkin in my face, it's going to take all I had not to want to just, I would have to really resist me I don't say putting my hands on anyone, because I'm not like a violent person like that. But the fact that she felt it was okay to throw a napkin in my face like I'm dust, like I'm nothing, is just unacceptable. I don't care if you're drunk or not. And really the fact that she's okay with being her friend and cool and trying to still be her friend gives a lot of, because she's given Tamara a lot of grace the way she talked. She talked about her last year, talked about her now fiance, and then threw the napkin in her face. That's like the ultimate right there. Okay, so let's get into the meat and the potatoes. So Tamara brings up Alexis, and Emily kind of takes over the situation with explaining why she felt the way she felt about Heather in the situation with the fashion show. And I just have to say, again, Emily is doing so well. I hate that her insecurities come out sometimes, but I feel like, I'm proud of her. Yes, she's taking Ozempic, but she's also working out like every day. And I think that a lot of people do take Ozempic and don't do anything, but she's still actually taking Ozempic and doing the work. So I'll give her kudos for that. But her breaking it down and really just conveying to Tamara, how she felt in that situation really makes Tamara apologize to her. And again, she's doing well, and thank you for putting your journey out there and being honest, because some people aren't honest with the fact that they're using other things to assist in their weight loss and not doing it all in the gym. But yes, kudos to Emily. Now, the Alexis being anxious comes up by Tamara. And she said that she felt like she was anxious because she knew the article was coming out. And it was difficult for her, to be in the space with these women, knowing that John Jansen just probably released and dropped the information to People magazine that is going to get published tomorrow. And knowing that she's going to get blamed for it. She's going to, her name's going to be drug all through it. It's just, it's a lot, and Shannon is so bent on the fact that she thinks Alexis has something to do with this. I feel like, this is all John Jansen. John Jansen wants to make an example of Shannon. John Jansen felt like he didn't get a good rap, and it wasn't a good look for him to be on the show and all the talking about him and all of that, which is true. But that's what you get when you date someone who's a reality TV star on one of the most iconic housewife shows. This is the original housewife show. And you have someone like Tamra who's on the show who is going to put everything out there. Her job is to be the bone collector and drop everything so everybody knows what's going on. So, you have to understand, John, that this is par for the course when it comes to Shannon being a housewife. And you maybe didn't know that she was a housewife before, but after finding out, I just feel like you can't keep doing this to her, and it's starting to make you look bad. If you wanted to have some validity, you're handling it very wrong. There were parts where I could have been like, well, Shannon does, kind of talk a lot, and then she seems to get a little, all over the place, and she's probably calling everyone, as everyone said last year, talking about her relationship with anyone who would listen and disparaging John. We know that, but that's what girls do. That's what people do when they talk to their friends or whatever the case is. You talk about your significant other because he's getting on your nerves today. But she probably took it a little step further, and I think the only reason why she did was because of the drinking. The drinking probably exacerbated, the things that she would say. But nonetheless, I love the discussion between Emily and Shane, because they are the resident legal expert. They are legal professionals, and their take on how, Emily's take on how she would have guided John if he was her client. And then hearing Shane talk about it as well was very interesting, and just a nice little nugget and tidbit, because ultimately I feel like it goes on both sides. I feel like neither one of them wanted to sign the non-disparagement, because I know she said that, she would pay, but you have to sign a non-disparaging contract. But I also understand where John is probably thinking, you're saying this, but you're on a reality TV show. You're going to talk about me. Now that may not be the case, because we see all the time when housewives are like, well, it's a legal matter. I can't talk about it. It's a legal matter, so there is that too. But, it could go, it goes either way. So we quickly go to Shannon, who's getting ready for bed, and just, she's all alone. She's upset. She's crying, and it's just a lot for her to deal with. And I do feel bad. And we do see where Alexis says she feels bad as well. I don't think this is what she wants, to make someone feel this way, but I know she's not also helping. And then the fact that, she's with John Jansen doesn't help the situation either. So it's just so much kind of all in one. Anyway, let's bring it back to the dinner party. This is where we finish the episode, because Tamra brings up, and of course, the actual name of the episode title. Let's bring the elephant in the room. She wants to bring up the elephant in the room. And of course, which Emily says, you mean Ryan and Eddie? Because Emily is definitely jazzy too. She's drunk. And it's a bunch of he say, she say, or he say, she say, she say. It's just, them just rehashing out the situation. Basically, Tamara saying that that Ryan went on the podcast and trashed her and Eddie, and Ryan is saying he didn't. And we're hearing clips. Again, I want to check out all about the RH, which is the Real Housewives podcast, where he went on there. And again, it sounded like the host was really baiting, but also the host was had a lot of their own tidbits and their own comments to say about Tamra. And that he did not, from the clip that I heard they showed that they played on the show, he was not, engaging in that. That was solely the host. But again, it's what it is to me. It looks a little like, okay, the whole thing with, you said you wanted to, get with my wife, and you're known for being, for getting with married women. And that's your MO. It's known around town and all of that. I hope if it's not true, which we find out, the news today is that he's potentially suing Tamra. He wants to sue Tamra for disparaging the disparaging comments, and you see Tamra today, like yesterday and today, Saturday and Sunday, she's trying to backtrack some of her statements and apologize. But you have to be careful about the things that you say about people. If it's not true and you don't know it to be true, then don't say it, and please always say allegedly. Allegedly, he was alleged to have, been with married women. He was alleged to have said that he was trying to get with Tamara. It was alleged, all these things, but she's saying these things that they're like the truth because she sees them on other blogs. That doesn't make it true though, so now she's in hot water. But to end this show, she's going back and forth, and Ryan's like, I'm not apologizing because, that's how I felt. You've been attacking me. You attacked me all last season. I had to see it, on the show. You attacked my fiance. Now you're attacking me all again this season. And, you and my fiance are in a good place. Like, just let it go, but you won't let it go. And I wrote in my notes that, like back in the day in like elementary school, it's like you have like a little crush and you keep, any little thing that you do to just get on their nerves. That's how it feels. It's like she's constantly like Ryan. It's just annoying. And, it's like the person you rag on the most is the one that you like, maybe she's mad that he wasn't trying to like pursue her or something. I don't know, but Tamara she has got to chill out. She's got to chill out. She's already been sued by Jim Bellino, which is Alexis Bellino's ex-husband. And now she's potentially in another lawsuit, which is breaking news, because Brian is not having it. He's not having it. And he's allegedly using the same lawyer Jim Bellino used when he sued Tamra and Shannon Bedore. So you just got to be careful. And we see at the end of this, Tamra storms out. Jen is like, Eddie, I adore you. I love you. Like, you've got to get control of this. You've got to get control of this. And he's like, I'm not her keeper, but you have, and, and in a sense, Jen is right. It's like, you need to get your wife, check your wife, and make sure she's not out here making slanderous remarks, because ultimately it's going to affect you, Eddie. It's going to affect you and your potential business and the things that you're doing. So anyway, Tamra storms out and she's gone. And it's Ryan and Eddie that are there. And everyone at the table is just shocked. So anyway, it was a really good ending, a good episode. What do you guys think about the episode? What's your take on this whole Tamra, Ryan, Jen, Eddie situation? And have you guys actually heard all about the Real Housewives podcast that Ryan was on? Let me know in the comments below. And I just took my reality TV junk and I just dumped it right on you all. Peace.